Good evening once again and welcome to Caribbean Feedback, the platform where we sit and discuss issues that confront us as a people, a nice, relaxed, backyard type conversations. Sitting with us this evening, we have two of our regulars, Miss Karen Forrester and
Hi,
Samuel
everybody.
Archer. Karen, why don't you go
Yes,
ahead
sir.
and introduce yourself, tell the people who you are and
All
what it is you
right.
do.
Hi, everybody. My name is Karen Forrester. I represent Bantu Creations. Bantu Creations is a new company. We create highly beautiful, high quality, African inspired, lightweight, handcrafted, one of a kind earrings. Looking forward to our little chat tonight.
Are those some of the samples behind you there, Karen?
Yes, sir. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Can you see any part of this?
Yes, that's a lovely, lovely,
Many
lovely
beautiful
display you have in the
colors
back.
and textures. Very lightweight. Don't let the sizes fool you. They're extremely lightweight products.
Let's move it along to our second lady in the house, Dr. Judith Barnes. Could you please introduce yourself and tell the people who you are and what it is you do?
I'm Dr. Judith Barnes.
Good night, doctor.
And what you don't do anything?
Hi, guys. I don't do much if I can avoid it.
You, don't,
You need to stop.
you set the people's minds right.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Isn't that what you do? Set the people's minds right.
No. I guide people into better thinking. Guide. That's all I can do.
Okay, you will never get me
excluding you, of course.
You will never get me on your call.
Exactly.
I can tell you
just
that.
said it.
Mr. Mark Chase, good evening, sir. Welcome to
Caribbean
Feedback. Please introduce yourself, tell the people who you are and what it is you do.
My name is Mark Chase. I am president of Chase Audit Services. I provide financial and other advice in terms of business to my customers.
Well, that's the person I need to talk to.
Anytime.
I have about 50 Jamaican dollars I want to invest. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Sorry, go ahead.
You need help.
You could buy.
I'll lend you another 50, and then we might have a conversation.
Okay.
That's under one. That's under $1 US. In case you don't know the currency exchange.
That's right.
You can't even buy a pocket rum with that.
Money.
Mr. Samuel Archer of Muzilog, please introduce yourself, sir. Tell us who you are and what it is you do.
Good evening, everyone. I am Sam Archer, the one and only. Everyone else are imitations, and they're trying to be like me. I am the original. I know, I'm just messing with you guys. I hail from the online publication Muzilog.com. I'm happy to be a part of the conglomerate of Muzilog, Caribbean Chatt, Bantu Creations, and AmpSocial. And I know Curtis is gonna say something about our esteemed colleague, so I'm gonna leave that for him to, put that slap a little butter on the bread there, and work that out for us. I'm a author and musician, and I am just happy to be here. And that's it, really. That's it. Ready to jump into and bite into our conversation this evening.
And we are indeed happy to have you, sir.
Thank you.
Once again, my name is Curtis Henry from Caribbean Chatt. Caribbean Chatt provides a platform where we celebrate the history and culture of Caribbean people in entertainment, the arts, politics, sports, education, economics. And we explore the many profound contributions they have made to society. This evening on Caribbean Feedback, let me remind you all of something, people, to the listening audience out there. There's a Native American proverb that says, "Tell me the truth and I'll believe. But tell me a story and it will live in my heart forever." How many stories have we been told in history books as to our arrival upon these shores of America? How many lies have been disguised as truths? How many stories are living within our hearts, etched in our minds that are crippling us as a people? In 1712, a British slaveholder from the West Indies by the name of Willie Lynch delivered a speech in the colony of Virginia where he stated that in order to better control slaves, slave masters should use their subtle differences like age, color, intelligence, size, sex, and hair texture against them, showing preferences for some above the others. More than 200 years later, an African-American author and journalist by the name of Carter G. Woodson stated in his book, The Miseducation of the Negro, that when you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. When you determine what a man shall think, you do not have to concern yourself about what he will do. If you make a man feel that he is inferior, you do not have to compel him to accept an inferior status, for he will seek it himself. If you make a man think that he is justly an outcast, you do not have to order him to the back door. He will go without being told. And if there is no back door, his very nature will demand one.
Wow.
Tonight, we'll be confronting a serious issue, or an illness, as I like to call it. Stay tuned as we discuss colorism in the Caribbean and how it affects us on a global scale. Karen, why do so many of our sisters find great difficulty in loving the skin they're in?
I have no idea. We come in so many beautiful colors and shades. It is shameful we don't value our beauty. While so many people from different ethnic groups and races trample each other. They run to the beaches, they go to tanning salons, they use tanning sprays, creams, lotions, trying to get a hint of the beautiful hue that we don't value or appreciate or embrace. I don't understand it. I really don't.
Dr. Barnes, please tell us what kind of childhood trauma is being manifested in someone to make them decide to bleach their skin, as we call it nowadays.
Let me read something to you guys. I remember when you first talked to me about coming on these programs with you, you said you want me to be very down to earth and very plain and not, so I tried to keep that in mind. And I try not to give a lot of, I said it to you yesterday, I try to be very factual, but at the same time, not to make it too tight and too serious because of what you told me the basic program idea is. But let me read this to you guys, and it's just a little bit that I'm going to read. It's a lot, but I gathered a lot of information about this, and I can't possibly read it all here. But I want to read these few lines to you. It says, this is written by a young woman named Jessica Reed. It's from The Guardian. It's an online publication. And she said this was the date on this is November 2nd, 2019. And it's called Tackling Colorism, How Our Shades of Black Series Expose the Race Issue No One is Discussing. We already know Black American women are paid considerably less than white men. That young black men are 5 times more likely to be incarcerated than white youth, and that Black children are suspended from school at a much higher rate than white children. This is how racism works, but the other ism is far less discussed, which is why Guardian UX decided to dedicate an entire series to colorism this year. To this day, colorism across the world remains taboo. The term is defined as the discrimination against individuals with a dark tone. This means that darker-skinned people of color have to fight prejudice even within their own community, where lighter skin is seen as more desirable. In the US, it was born out of slavery, where lighter-skinned enslaved Black women and their children, often the result of rape by white slave masters, were given preferential treatment. Okay, that being said, I'm sure everybody already knew that, but that's a little bit more concise description that I wanted to share. It says it there. A lot of this came out of racism. A lot of it came out of some of the things you said, key things. I saw the movie 12 Years a Slave. And one of the scenes had the white guy beating the Lupita Nyong'o played the part, beating the slave woman. And while he was beating her, he had the Bible in his hand. And it's almost like he was reading from the Bible, justifying what he was doing. And that struck me. I mean, they could have put me out of the theater. I got very loud. And my son was like, Mom, take it easy. I was like, no, I can't take this. So I went a little crazy watching that scene alone. And then there's a movie back in 1959 called Imitation of Life. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. And I'm not sure if it's a real story, but it is about this young Black woman whose mother worked for a white family. She got pregnant by a white man. And the daughter came out more white than Black in terms of how you look at her, initially anyway. And she ended up getting, I see Mark shook his head. So you've seen the movie? Yeah. And so basically, she ended up hating her mother because she wanted to be in the white world. She was involved with a white guy until he realized that she was Black. And so she almost lost, well, she literally lost her mind. And it ruptured the relationship between her and her mom, because here's this Black woman, darker than her, of course, that gave birth to her. And all along, she thought she was white. So the answer is, for me, is that, first of all, it's something that has been put on us. But the key thing that you said before is that, oh God, that thing hurts. It gets to the point in life that you think so little of yourself, you'll actually find something to corroborate what has been said about you. And similar to what you said before. When the American Black was told hundreds of years ago that they are 3/5 of a human being, when you tell people that and then you enslave them, or you have them enslaved and you tell them that, it does something to the human psyche. Like you said, everything that you said, what you quoted, is a fact. What it does, it diminishes your worth. It takes away whatever you've been told or thought about yourself that was valuable, it takes it away. And that's the idea. Because if you enslave my mind, you can take my body, you can do whatever you want to do. So to me, slavery, and before the American slavery, there was slavery in Africa. And we got to figure out we have to figure out, what is it about us, why we were enslaved, not just by whites, but by our own. What is it in us that makes us think that we're so far less than others? So it's not just the white man did it in America, but it happened in Africa. And the story goes that there are a lot of Africans who sold Blacks to come here. So what is it in us? Is it something intrinsic? Is it something that we're born with a gene where we think we're less? I don't think so. And I'm not sure where it started. I can't say, like Karen said, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that it exists, it is dangerous, and it's not getting better. For a long while, I think we tried to hide it in different ways, but it's like there's a resurgence. That's just like there's a resurgence of racism at a higher level in America right now. I think there's a resurgence of this colorism thing.
Karen, what is colorism? You brought this topic to us, even though on the street, when we sit amongst each other and speak, we discuss this issue about bleaching. We discuss this issue about red woman, how red women stay from how Black women stay, the attitude, how different, in terms of flavors of the week, what certain men, what we as individuals may prefer in terms of physical features in a woman. But at times we do these things and don't even realize that we ourselves may be perpetuating the same mentality in terms of the choices that we make and why we make these choices. So Karen, what is colorism?
Dr. Judith has already addressed it, but I will reiterate. Colorism is prejudice or preferential treatment, let me put that in, based solely on the color of one's skin. And it's usually within the same race. So Blacks are judging other Blacks. You know what I mean? The light-skinned Blacks are judging the darker-skinned Blacks. It's Black supremacists and light supremacists and all type of nonsense. I can't understand how we ever developed this. But what I did read about is how young children in Africa, because I started on the continent, in different countries on the continent, young children in Africa learned at a very young age that If it's white, it's all right. In the US, they changed it a little bit, but essentially it's the same. If you're white, you're all right. If you're brown, stick around. If you're black, stay back. That's, how could we ever have embraced this? But it's years of conditioning, and it has passed through the generations. Hundreds of years later, we're still believe.
Sam, have you ever had any, I know we've all experienced racism in some way, shape, or form, but have you ever had to deal with that color issue growing up?
When I arrived to the US, yes, it was really blatant. In the Caribbean, we did certain things, but we didn't understand what it was. This might not have been colorism, but it's related. I remember being in high school, and if a young lady had her hair natural, it would be looked down upon. Why she don't put a comb in it, or why she don't relax that, or why she don't, they had issues when a sister had her hair natural. And God forbid she put it in locks is a problem.
Oh gosh.
So you had that, and then we had some folks would get the Ambi soap and the Ambi cream and use it. So to us, growing up in that environment, you're not looking and thinking of, well, this is something against your natural being. And growing up again, when I got a haircut, the guy would put a part in the hair, but we don't have hairlines like that. So what he putting a part in the hair for? Because white people have the part, they have a hairline. So so you would see the olden gentlemen, they have the afro and they comb one side this way and they put a part in it. The part signifies that you're trying to be something else. So, we saw all of this and didn't understand that these were things that we were doing that was really against who we are, against us being in a natural, appreciating who we are naturally. And so, we look at the colorism, and I didn't know it was that bad until I saw a few documentaries, especially there was one that came out of Jamaica, and it literally brought tears to my eyes. Ooh. And so it was a serious realization. But in terms of racism, that was a lot more blatant when I relocated back to the US and went to college. It was just more like a in your face, in the conversation, it was sort of like being pumped into your everything, that you had to at some point deal with it, especially when you met the guys who own the night in the evening time. They would be running about doing all types of stuff in Brooklyn. I ran into those guys a couple times. So, you had to understand that, this is how folks live in certain places of the world.
Let me just add something.
Let me bring Mark in for a second. Okay. Did you ever get any preferential treatment because you were of a lighter hue than some of the other folks you were going, some of the other people you were growing up around, or were you ever pushed back because of the darkness?
Flip that question. Flip that question.
All right,
Mark?
let me give some history here. Both of my parents were doctors. My father's a very dark-skinned man with bright blue eyes. My mother was very fair-skinned with freckles and red hair. I came out, my hair is wavy and green eyes. So I would get a pass. He dark, but he's all right. His hair is nice.
But
his hair is nice.
It's all about the hair, Mark.
It would anger me so much. I went and I said, cut it off.
Oh,
cut it off. And the barber, what do you want to cut off all that nice hair for? Cut it bald. Because I don't hear that noise anymore. If I could have pulled my eyeballs out, I would have. I would do nothing I could do about that. But
Lord have mercy.
But within my own family, don't expect much out of Mark. He's not going to be well favored in life.
Wow.
And that's the shocking part when it's in your family. When it is in your family, I mean, there's no protection. There's no protection anywhere. Are you serious?
I have of my children from very fair skin to very dark. And it seems all the dark children got light colored eyes and all the light children got brown eyes. Doesn't make any difference to me, but it was hell on them going to school. I have one that's actually sitting right next to me at the table that I would go pick her up from school. That's your father? Let me see some identity.
Let her come on camera.
Is
she willing? Rachel? Rachel?
Mm-hmm. Come here.
Karen.
Hi.
No.
Yes. Hi, baby.
What?
Yes. Hi, baby.
If I didn't see it, I wouldn't believe. I'm listening to you, and I had some other questions coming for you. But now that you say it, looking at her with makeup and everything, she can, as they used to say back in the days, pass.
Yeah.
She can pass.
Wow.
Wait till you hear her speak. Oh gosh. That's when she'll correct all those notions. She'll correct on that.
What is your name? What is your name there?
Rachel.
And where were you born?
Right in Miami.
Mark.
Let your daughter answer the question.
Slide to the left. Yes, Rachel. Where were you born?
In Miami, in Florida.
Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
How much of your father's history and culture do you embrace?
Oh God.
As I can.
I didn't hear you. Karen stepped over you. What did you say?
I said as much as I can, as much as I have been allowed.
I've been allowed. Mark, you and I are going to discuss that as far as allowing her. But
straighten that out.
Well,
yeah.
Rachel, it's a pleasure you joining the show, and we really see what your father is speaking about. Because when he spoke about the green eyes and the whatever, I wasn't seeing it at all. I wasn't seeing it. But now that he brought you on, I get an opportunity to see where he's coming from with that, because I would have asked the same question too. You know, who's your father? Him? No. Let me see
You mean he's your father? No, that couldn't be.
All right, Rachel. Thank you for joining us.
Life is amazing. Life is really amazing.
This is
wow.
I have seven.
This kind of colorism, you know, and if she mother used to look at her, you're not gonna be working nothing today. We're dark. That's your own mother saying this to you.
Wow.
That's your own mother saying this to you. So it exists with not only externally, but internally.
Yeah.
Internally.
I never experienced any of that within my family, and I'm proud to say that there wasn't even a hint of any of that going on within my family, and that's for growing up. Not even now, there was never a hint of that. But I experienced
a very quick story. When I was about 13 years old, I tried to grow an afro. My brother, who's younger than me, could grow an afro. He's much fairer skin, but he could grow an afro. And I was picking and doing all kind of thing. And it was my father who finally came to say, what are you trying to do? I said, I'm trying to grow an afro. It ain't gonna do nothing but flop on both sides. You look like an ass head. You look like you're wearing an ass on your head. My feelings were so hurt. I went bald. Karen can tell you, I went bald for years. Just cut all my hair off because I didn't want to be judged by the hair that was on my head.
Wow.
That's something.
Wow. That's some.
I had no
something. Sorry, Dr. Curtis. May I add something here? We need to understand that some of this exists in the white community also.
Absolutely.
in the white community, the fairer you are, the more valuable you are. Just to add that.
It exists
in
the Arab communities, in the Asian communities.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For Arabs and Asians. No, but they want to be as pale as possible.
Of white, and so sorry, Karen, but there are different gradations of color, and the thing is that from the very beginning, the idea of light and darkness is considered as dangerous and negative, and light is something to desire, and it's something pure. I mean, you look at a white sheet. And first of all, there's no white human beings. They're pale and they're light, but they're not white. A sheet is white, white sheet. If you look at a white sheet, it shows dirt quicker than a darker colored sheet. And so there's a young woman named, what's her name? Candace Owens. She's a black woman with a white mind and a lot of crazy stuff. And she said there's no racism in America. She's pro-Trump and whatever. She said there's no racism.
Oh, okay, I'm familiar. I know who you're speaking about now.
But that same young lady, which she's about my complexion, or because I'm dark. She would never say she's dark. She would never say that. But anyway, she lived in Connecticut. Because before I wrote something to her, and I wrote an article, and I said, before I get to talking about people, let me find some information. So I researched it, and she grew up in Connecticut. At 18, she and her parents sued the Board of Education in Connecticut for racism. And there were 5 white boys in a car. One of them, as she passed by, said that she was dirty. Physically, they said she was dirty. And they were going to tar and feather her. And so anyway, she told her parents, and guess which agency they went through to sue the Board of Education?
NAACP?
NAACP. And she, in this day, and I wrote to her there, I said, you got to find out, what's wrong with you. You got to work that out, because there's definitely something wrong going on here. Because if you could do that, but guess what? She never told anybody about it. But this is America. Your information is all out there. So it's now they're giving her a fight, because every time she gets on social media and I see it, I make sure. I said, these white people, we want her to run in 2024. She's the new black white hope. So I told him, I said, well, what you need to do is research her and find out what she did in 2008. And she and her parents got $64,000 from the school board because of racism. So, and we work with, some of us are twisted. I'm sorry, some of us are twisted black folks. Anyway, let me stop. That was it.
Is anyone here familiar with the Stockholm Syndrome?
Yes.
Anyone care to elaborate on that? I know what it is, but for the interest of inclusion, tell me, what is the Stockholm Syndrome?
Where you grow empathy for the person that is taking advantage of you.
Amen. Basically, yeah.
And in this day and age, after hundreds of years of slavery, not physical, but also mental slavery, coming out of that, and I alluded to this a few weeks ago, where there were no reparations made. We weren't repaired as a people. And now we can identify with the enemy this much that we want to become that. We bought into the lies, like I stated in my opening monologue. We bought into the lies so much that we are now believing that we are inferior. We are now believing that there's something wrong with us. That documentary that you spoke about, Sam, I believe it's the same one I saw on Jamaica with the bleaching of the skin. And I heard one young lady say that when she bleached her skin and she come out, she looked whiter than white people. She said, so nice and pretty. I look whiter than white people. She said, it's a Michael Jackson kind of white. Now, let me tell you all something. I have seen individuals who transform themselves from looking like a rich piece of mahogany to a piece of untreated pine. And I do not understand how that can be an improvement. You have to go into the richness of this thing we call melanin, which on the open market is worth more than gold. Melanin, an ounce of melanin is worth way more than an ounce of gold. This stuff that we were born with. Why would you now embrace your enemy? and want to become more like him and do away with what you have, do away with who you are, making yourself lesser.
I'm going to throw something in here.
These people, hold on, the ones who bleach, you hear them talk about they cannot even go out in the sun. They have to put on like a tracksuit all day and cover themselves up, because the minute you get back out in the sun, what do you think happens?
It's about power.
They start to get black again.
It's about power. In Guyana, for years, you would hear Indian people say, you know, the only reason I never get this is because I'm clear. They call themselves clear. The only reason I never get none is because I'm clear. Okay? Black people were in power. Then Chetty Jagan gets elected, and you have the Indian People's Party. And you hear the opposite. The only reason I get that because my skin black. Okay, now, for years, I'm going to use the word, we have a word we call nigger foot. That did not apply to black people. That applied to Indian people. You're out, you're stomping in the mud, you're cutting cane, you nigger foot. I never thought it applied to me. But now it applies to your Douglas. You see? You can't tell the difference between Indian, black, Tamil, this one, that one. In Guyana, but they're all fighting each other within the same family. And can't tell the difference between none of them. It's about power and the seat of power. We witnessed, all of us, a genocide in Africa between Hutu and Tutsi because the English gave the idea that the Hutu's nose was thinner and slightly lighter skin, and so they call the Tutsi cockroaches, and managed to kill 1 million people. 1 million people. But it was about power. Whoever's in power gets to tell the story. Whoever's in power is the most beautiful, the most worthy, the most so on and so forth. We haven't been in power for a long time, anywhere. So this has to be expected. Where we are in power, we're still puppets, still being controlled. We can't expect any less. We can't expect any less. Economics rules your world. Until you control the economics, you don't rule your world.
Does anyone here know this actress called Naturi Norton?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're familiar with her?
From 3LW?
Yes, she started off as a singer. She then went on she starred in Power as the lead female character in Power. She also played Lil Kim, who I'm sure you're all familiar with, the rapper. She played Lil Kim in the movie Notorious, the movie on the Notorious B.I.G. Now, Lil Kim feels that Naturi was too dark to play her in the movie, and she rebelled against this. And listen to this. Lil Kim said, why didn't they choose someone more like Christina Milian to play her in the movie? Because somehow in this girl's mind, she's seeing herself as Christina Milian. And she said, everybody knows that inside I'm a Puerto Rican. But she did later, she went on later on to admit that she has low self-esteem, and she always had low self-esteem, and that maybe is part of her issue as to why it is she made some of the choices that she's made. But I'm telling you, if you have not seen Lil Kim in years, you will not recognize her today. You will not recognize that sister today as far as what she looks like now compared to the Lil Kim that came on the scene in the early 90s. Judith, Dr. Barnes, once again, tell us about some of these psychological implications that causes this type of behavior. I do not understand it.
Listen, when I was probably 11 years old in Jamaica in school, Whitfield Town Primary School, and I stayed in the classroom a lot because I didn't play because I was extremely skinny. You know, they say maga. I was very maga. And I always had a lot of hair. So I call myself, I say I look like a Biafran toothpick. I mean, I look like I come straight out of Africa with big hairy hair. So what happened is that I learned very young, and it's at my father's feet that I learned it, my earthly father. Not to push yourself on anybody. You're valuable by yourself. I learned that very young, and I'm glad I did. So I'm sitting in the classroom. I'm one of the darkest kids there. No other children in the classroom. This brown-skinned teacher and two of her colleagues, one a little darker. I sit in having lunch. And all of a sudden, I sit there and I'm looking out the classroom, but there are no doors, and I'm looking out the classroom. And the brown skin one, she's very big down here, and she's just big, seriously. That's my attitude when I was a child, and I still believe it. Because she's brown, she even thinks fat is nice because she's brown. So she don't care because she's brown first and fat after. So I'm there and I'm looking out, and all of a sudden I hear her say, "Judith, come here." So the way I was brought up, I don't know who she was talking to. You see, I was dark in the looks, but I've always been extremely bright in the brain because I've read ferociously and taught my father. My father used to read a dictionary. So I never lacked self-esteem. I never really had low self-esteem. So I'm sitting there, she said, "Judith, come here and take our dishes to the kitchen." No, at that school, the kitchen is way across the compound. And, you know, dust is out there and everything. And I must take their plate, and walk all the way. So I turned and looked at her. And she said, "Come and take these dishes to the kitchen." So see me here. I looked right back outside again. She did it 3 times. I never got up. I never went. My attitude was my father didn't send me to school for that. So as we were lining up to go back in the classroom, you know, we queue up to go back in. She comes, now this is a grown woman to me. She comes over to me and she looks at me from my toes to from my feet to my head. "If you're even pretty." So hear me in my mind now. Is who she talked to me pretty long time. That's how I felt. You know, I'm like, I don't know what she's talking about. Because my father, especially a girl, if your father tells you you're pretty, okay? Your father tells you that kind of stuff, you're okay. And I felt I was quite attractive, so it didn't matter to me. So she walked away. Somebody said something. She come back to me again. She had it in for me that day. You know, I never said a word to that lady. She comes back and she look at me again. "Why didn't you tell me Jeff Barnes was your brother?" I looked at her from her feet to her head, turned around and looked straight. I never said a word. That's the kind of power my physical father, earthly father, put in me. I never spoke a word. She can't say I was rude to her. She can't say I was nasty. But something in me, and I grew up with people call me Blackie. You know, and I always used to hear, "Boy, her teeth them white and pretty." She darky, but her teeth white. Somebody said, "Where the butt come from? Where is the butt? Why is there a butt in there?" And look at her here. She must have coolie in her. All that stuff. But what I like about the life that I live, you see, I don't like when people compliment me. I'm very careful with compliments because sometimes people compliment you just so they can manipulate you.
Underhanded compliments, I call them. Yeah.
I was seeing a guy here in Georgia for a short while, a couple of years ago, and he complimented me continuously all the time. Fine. And he had a complex. He's lighter than me. And the truth is that I prefer dark-skinned men. If I'm going to have a relationship, that's my preference. So anyway, I said, well, maybe God sent him. I don't know. He's light, but maybe God sent him. So we go to breakfast one morning, and he was used to complimenting me, man. "Oh, your legs and your this and that." And as we sat down for breakfast that Saturday morning, I said, "Let me explain this to you. I like being complimented. It's nice, but understand this. If you're complimenting me to manipulate me, you might as well stop. Because I'm not easily moved." He said to me, "So I can never compliment you?" I said, "Oh, you always have to compliment me, but understand that you cannot control me." And I'm telling you, light-skinned men in my life have tried on me. I said, "Go away, you idiot." I'm sorry, I went too far. The Jamaican got me there. But I told him, I'm not impressed by that. The truth of the matter is that we all got the same message along the way about 3/5. We are 3/5 human because we are black. We still have the problem with the Negroes that worked in the house as opposed to the one that worked in the field, and the one who worked in the house felt more superior to the ones in the field. And so we have it in families. We have it all. Jamaican people say, oh, there's no racism in Jamaica. That's a lie. I lived with it. So don't tell me that. In the stores, Bata downtown and the banks, years ago, Karen, who did you see in there up front?
Everyone is light skin or Chinese.
Okay.
All caramel complexion or Chinese.
I work with a Jamaican.
In front desk.
Whose last name is Sasso. And she's proud to say she's American. She's married to a Jamaican Italian. I want to go sit down someplace. Anyway, she's proud of that. And she's very, very, she's pro, you know who, and she believes everything that comes. One day she told me, he's a nice man. He cares for people. I said, let me tell you something. You and I can't serve the same God that you thought the foolishness. I don't want to hear it. But she has a problem with racism as a light-skinned Jamaican. And I'm in the class, you see, I'm very confrontational, especially when it comes to truth. And we're talking in the classroom, and when I tell you she's fair, the white people at school don't like her because she does this, you know, she does that. And here's not that long. White folks have an attitude. They'll ask me why black folks do certain things. What's the difference? Why would they ask me? Because my very posture, my very look, I just cut off my hair again the other day. My very attitude about myself is that I have no shame about who I am. And that Jamaican woman sit there, and I promise you, she's a racist. And she looks, and one day I confronted her. I said, you see people like you back in Jamaica? It's a well-known fact. It's a sociological fact that people like you think you're better than people that look like me. Oh, that's not true. I said, you don't have to admit to it. You think I think you're going to admit to it? But it's the truth. So this is a lifelong thing. I don't think it's going to get any better because, and this is my basic concept about life in general, everything. Until human beings stop denying what is so obvious, ain't nothing going to change. And we prefer lies because we seem to rest better. I'm the opposite. I don't rest well when there are lies circulated. So it's a part of it is environment, how we are raised. I was raised with a father who's very dark. But guess what? Even though he imbued self-confidence in everything, he felt bad about being dark because his mother thought he was too dark. And then, of course, he sought a light-skinned wife. And guess what? The light-skinned wife and his mother turned against him. That's how crazy that was.
So Miss Forrester, you are somewhat of the lighter hue. You know, they would refer to you as a brown then.
Only you see it, you know. Me not see it in a father.
You might.
Me don't see it. Everybody else go and comment on that since me there in Florida. I've never seen that. I've never thought of myself as that.
Okay, well, it's
I don't like it.
Yeah, but
don't call me that.
Did you ever gain favor because of your brown skin?
I don't look for favors. I don't accept favors because I can earn whatever I need.
Yeah, but were you ever preferred because of your brown complexion?
No, not in my opinion, no. Ladies and gentlemen, when I brought up this topic of colorism, I changed it to black love when I talked to Sam about it. The reason I wanted to discuss colorism primarily is because of the prevalence of use of bleaching products to change the skin, which is not only toxic to the skin, but to the organs and can lead to death. And I would like to discuss that from the countries on the continent of Africa to the Caribbean and bring it right back home to the US. I don't want to end this program and that not be discussed.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead. Is this something we see happening outside of America and in the Caribbean?
In South Africa, let's start on the continent. There's a study done by the University of Cape Town. 1 in 3 people in South Africa, primarily women, are bleaching their skin. In Nigeria, 77% of the population, primarily women, not exclusively, are bleaching their skin. The products contain some of the most toxic agents like hydroquinone, which was banned in 2001 here in the US and banned in South Africa around the same time, but it's still used and it's still used in the black market products. Some 35% of the population in Togo are using bleaching agents. Mali, some 25%. Okay, we need to talk. I'm sorry, 77% in Nigeria, 59% in Togo. We need to talk about the fact that people are using all of these agents trying to change their beautiful skin tone and look as white as possible, and developing all types of major complications that are not being covered, but certainly not by local or national news here. But we need to talk about that. It's happening in Jamaica. I thought it was primarily females that were doing it in Jamaica. Now it's more males trying to get ahead in relationships, in jobs, thinking everybody thinks that whites or light skin will get you the better, the better jobs, the better salary, the better mate. That's what we need to discuss as well.
Okay,
Karen, I wanted to. Okay. I'm sorry, Doctor. I just wanted to throw in before I forget this point. We also have the part of the equation where a parent will tell that child, "Don't bring back anything black here,"
Absolutely.
Or they might say, when you're bringing something, make sure the hair is straight. We ain't want no crooked coming back here.
Trying to dilute
this. This situation is it's. I think it's a major sickness. It is a mental thing that resides very, very deep in many situations.
But it's mental sickness leading to physical disease.
Yeah. So before we run away, I just want to shout out the people on the chat real quick. We have Miles to Infinity. Welcome back. That's my friend Helen. Lucy O'Brien said good night.
Good night, Lucy.
Nola Boris Brooks has tuned in. Sherry Ann Sylvester has tuned in. And we want to thank you guys. And keep it coming. We do have a question there. You guys want to check it out real quick?
Yeah. Go ahead.
They're asking, can black people be racist in their own community? Can black
That's
people
what colorism is all about.
Racist in their own community?
That is what colorism is all about.
Most certainly.
And part of it comes from self-hate. Part of it comes from self-hate.
Well, let me talk about racism and power. One of the things that has irked me over the years is when you hear a black person jump up and talk about, well, I'm the only one on my block. I'm the only one in the neighborhood, where you feel privileged because you're the only black family allowed in a exclusively white neighborhood, and you feel privileged. So when you see me move across the street, you feel threatened. That somehow, I don't know what it is. Maybe
are falling.
Because you're not special anymore. You're not the one. But you have to share with other black people, even on a job, where if there's only one black person in the room. Because I've seen that. As soon as you come in as a black person, the black person starts giving like, get away. This is I get a chance to be seen and heard, and I'm the only black here. And I can tell them all the lies I want to tell them. And you have somebody like me who comes in and said, that's not true. Don't believe that. So, but the thing is that what you're saying, what Karen is saying, I always go back to the same thing every time, no matter what topic we're talking about, whether it's here or someplace else. Until human beings get disgusted with their own behavior, nothing changes. If you've been told all your life that being dark is a problem, and at some point, you don't take it upon yourself to learn your own value and to understand that this truly is gold. White people have a problem with their skin. I had a white woman tell me that her skin is ugly. But what happens is that we perceive it as something of value because of how life has been. Where during slavery, in our households, it's always been the lighter ones that gets the better treatment. So it's something that has been perpetuated all our lives. It's in the psyche. It's in here. And I hear black people say, this is one of the things that really makes me want to just disassociate. When black people say, I have Chinese in my family, I have Irish, I said, let me ask you a question.
You better walk with them.
Have you ever seen an Irish person tell you they have black in their family?
You're making my head hurt.
We have been taught this. The problem is we have learned too well, and we have got to unlearn it. Our children still have it. I know a lady whose son is one is very dark and one is fairly light. And from her husband, who's dark like she is, asked her after the child was born, why come out so dark? I wasn't there. Had I been there, I'd have given them an answer.
You know what? I wish you really had been there. I remember reading fairly recently, there are over 100 genes that attribute to skin color. So it's hilarious that people are lack so much education. They only see what they see, and that's all they can see.
Somebody has said it here earlier. Do you realize that Black people can have any color, baby? Somebody
Absolutely.
Said the bottom line is that we are so powerful. He said, I know I'm powerful. You know, the Bible talks about dunamis power. So I tell Black people, you read the Bible, you run around the church like an idiot, and you walk out there and you're still being stupid. What you ought to do is take the knowledge, because there's knowledge in there about who you're supposed to be. And when I read that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, you can't tell me nothing about me. And I mean that genuinely. So the thing is,
amen.
Till we start learning, the Bible it's a direction for life. For me, it has been. But I don't read it and feel less. I am a very powerful woman. I'm a very powerful individual, dark or not. And that comes from a decision. And I'm telling you, on every mental illness, even some medical issues, unless we say, I have it, it ain't going to get fixed. Because if you don't admit to it, you're not going to the doctor. If you don't say, I don't like the way I'm living and I got to get out of this, you'll continue to do it. And it's the same thing with colorism. You talk to a Jamaican about what we were talking about. A Jamaican living in Jamaica, a Jamaican in Florida, the highty-tighty ones, the ones who think they have made it, talk to them about this. See, my thing is why, and I'm being very serious, why are we having this discussion? Because within all of us, there are issues that we ourselves don't deal with. And Jamaicans will say, oh, there's no racism in Jamaica. It's not the truth. Hugh Shearer, many, many years ago, was prime minister. You know what they refer to him? They look a black boy. So it's something inherent in us that we have taken in, not by osmosis. We've been trained to think that way. So Karen, the bottom line for us all is, again and again, I'll say it, the bottom line for all of us, whether you have a corn and you keep putting your foot into a size 7.5 and you're supposed to be wearing an 8, that corn gonna burn you. You have to admit that it hurts, and stop putting on the size 7.5 shoes.
But also the education part of it. The products that they're using is killing them slowly but surely.
But it's
and they're not aware.
Jamaican women, there's Jamaican women who do that bleaching that says, now look at their hands are still dark and they're light in their face, but their hands, I just saw one. Curtis sent to me.
Okay. You have that picture, Sam? Hold on. Sam, pull this thing up. Let people, I want all the viewers of this show to see exactly what it is you brought up there, Judith. Mark, you sit down, Mark?
I'm sitting.
You can't shock Mark. You can't shock Mark.
I want to make sure you're sitting down for this one.
So
Mark, no man, am I right?
Hold on.
So before I put up the phone, I had a technical issue. So I'm gonna have to show it from my phone.
Oh, okay. Right? You can't put it up on the screen. All right.
Yeah. So I hope it's you guys can make it out.
Come LP. So look at
see that, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
That's how light the woman's. This is an African wedding. That's the woman's face, and that's the woman's hands on her lap.
Jesus Christ.
No, she looked like something that has been exhumed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that looked like it dead and dig back up. But let me. Okay. You all familiar with Wendy Fitzgerald?
Yeah, the our Trinidad and Tobago
Miss Universe,
Beauty Queen,
1998 Miss Universe.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
When Wendy Fitzgerald won the competition in Trinidad to represent Trinidad in the Miss Universe competition, of course, you know, there are sponsors that would send them away sponsors that would make their dress, make their whatever it might be. Wendy Fitzgerald was placed on a standby flight to go represent her country. They didn't even give that girl a ticket to fly out. Because somehow in their minds, she is not a true representation of beauty to represent Trinidad.
What?
And when she went ahead and now won the competition, oh, everybody jump up. Oh, yeah. Wendy Fitzgerald, yeah, Miss Trinidad and Tobago, yeah, Miss Universe. And then when she returned, everybody wanted to give her sponsorship deals. Oh, endorse my product, endorse my this. I'm very happy to say that she kindly said no to a lot of these people. Because for her, it wasn't about the money. She had to hold her head up high and show some dignity.
Yes.
Because she wasn't going to allow herself to be reduced now to accepting whatever your handout may be because you didn't see me fit as somebody to represent the country. And I've seen posts like this in years after this where people would put up the black woman and say, what is this? When Trinidad have women that look like this, the half Chinese, the half Indian, the half of somebody else, which somehow, like Mr. Kanye West said, mixed children are more beautiful than straight up dark-skinned children. Let me give you a story here. Growing up in Trinidad, let me tell you my first experience with this light and dark issue. We were playing, I believe I was in like standard 3 at the time, which could put me somewhere around 9 years old, 10. And the teacher said, okay, form a circle. And we were playing this game where everybody hold hands and we jump around, ring around the rose, something like that. And I held on to this girl's hand and she continued jumping until she looked around and saw who it was. And then she pulled away her hand and she said, oh, you're so black. I'll call her out. She's still around. There are people who still know me and still know her. Her name is Jillian Huggins. In my mind, Jillian Huggins was the most beautiful girl in the world.
Oh, Lord.
Why? She had that nice wavy hair. She had the little curly baby hair in front here.
Oh,
Lord. She pretty. She even today, she still has a pretty face. But I don't know what went on within her home that made her spit that out. She didn't just think it. It came out of her mouth. Oh, you are so black. And she let go of my hand and held on to another student, another classmate, Mark Ferguson. Mark Ferguson was red-skinned guy. Always wore a watch, always have his clothes well neat and pressed. And she held on to Mark Ferguson's hand because somehow Mark was better than me, I guess. No, I'm not one to put people down, but if today she wanted a child from Mark Ferguson, she wouldn't get it because Mark don't swing that way. That's as gently as I can put that.
I understand.
So
wow.
I was shunned because of my darkness, and I had a complex with this thing for many years growing up, always feeling that I was too dark. I was also criticized about my eyes. People say, oh, you and them big eye, the eye them too big. And I will show you pictures. I will show you pictures right now where I took several pictures growing up, and I'm like this. I would partially close my eyes because I had this complex that my eyes were too big. And I would always close them some. I have several pictures like that for me growing up. And God is my witness, it wasn't until somewhere in the 90s when I was singing Calypso Sam. And in the studio, you remember Janet?
Yeah.
Janet, who did background vocals for a lot of us. Janet looked at me one night and she said, oh, yeah, you and them dreamy eyes. I said, what? She said, oh, you stop acting like you don't know. You and them dreamy eyes. I looked around again. I said, who you talking to? I said, no, serious, who you talking to? She said, stop acting like you don't know. Them eyes are yours. They just mesmerize people. I was in my 30s before I became comfortable with my own eyes. Because of how people refer to me growing up.
About power. There's a comedian, I don't know if you ever listen. His name is Russell Peters. He's an Indian guy from Toronto. And he tells this story about he sees another Indian guy and he wants to go up and talk to him. And he goes, oh, you're from India. Where are you from? And the guy looks at him and says, where are you talking? Do I look like I'm Indian to you? and he's so taken aback. But isn't your name Bopal? That has nothing to do with it. I'm Guyanese. is who in is who's in power that determines how we even feel about ourselves. It's who's in economic power, who's in charge of the schools, who's in charge of government, who's in charge of taking your garbage away. That's what determines. What I've seen in Guyana go from here to there, back this way, and then, oh, I'm English. Since when?
Since they took over.
What English person? I want the same one. Well, my last name is so, and my last name is Braithwaite. Okay, Mr. Braithwaite. All kind of nonsense like this. It's about power. It's about power. In power, who controls. They determine beauty. They determine status. It doesn't matter how I'm an Ivy League graduate. Everyone here are intelligent people. Then ask.
But as we said, Mark, it's a level of brainwashing that make us not want to be who we are. And something important, what you said, you speak about power, but some of us render ourselves powerless. Look within society. We somehow believe that we have to go to school to get that education. And it's only until we achieve that certificate of excellence that the man says that we're supposed to have, do we give ourselves any value. A lot of us look down upon the pushcart vendor, the guy who sells ice. Hold on, let me show you something here. We look down upon these people, the wheels that within society that keep the wheels that keep society flowing, that keeps everything moving, the truck driver, the everything. Meanwhile, other races come in and fill that void and become rich. They were the ones with the taxi company. They're the one with the trucking company. They're the ones that open the corner store. They're the one that open the gas stations, because we are told to look down upon those people who do these things, because we want to rise to this level of excellence that white people have. So we go get the education, and then we think that somehow we up there, and we look down upon everybody else, and we lose out as people.
And what Karen was saying about bleaching creams and so on. Okay, let's look at things for what they are right now. Would you bleach your skin to save your life? Would you straighten your hair to save your life? And I think there are certain places where that is the case. If I don't feel it's the case, I will starve to death. If I don't look this way, Mr. Constable is going to slap me beside the head with a truncheon. You understand?
Okay, Mark, can I ask you something?
Yes.
Having said what you all said, and I agree with what you said about the power issue. They did these this lady, I can't remember her name right now, a white lady, always talking about racism and what white people are doing fundamentally to blacks. She comes on the internet a lot. I can't remember her name right now, but she did an experiment about blue-eyed people and green-eyed people in the same room. And what she ended up doing, and I can't remember the exact experiment, but what she ended up doing was saying, if you're blue-eyed, Jane Elliott. And basically she said, if you're blue-eyed, she can accord anything to anybody. And that's what this, to a certain extent, that's what we're coming to from what Mark is saying to a large degree. And basically she said, if you're blue-eyed I'm just going to say this because I don't remember exactly. If you're blue-eyed, you can swim the English Channel and win. You have that power in you. And if you're green-eyed, you won't be able to get along to do that. In the room, she separated people according to different color eyes. And people truly believed. Now, people truly believed what she was saying about the different color eyes. And so, listen, you said it best, Mark, is that we want to become whatever we think is popular, whatever is powerful, whatever is in vogue, whatever will get us the next job, the next car. I'm one of those crazy people. You can't threaten me with nothing because I can always get. I will always, and I know that I'll always have. And what I'm trying to do in my little world, and this is what this is how I address what you said earlier, Karen, is that colorism is real. All the stuff that we're talking about. But I say it over and over again, until I take personal responsibility to change my little world, to fix that part by my behavior, not just by my talk, by my behavior, it's going to continue to have meetings like these where we try to flush out why. And maybe we should move beyond why now and say, how do we stop it? One of the ways we stop it in our own lives is to, because let me tell you, I've seen Black people talk about this issue and they behave the same way in their family. They prefer the lighter skin baby. They do all this talking and they said, yes, and we got to stop this. And it's a sin. Black people have feelings until watch them with your own. And I'm telling you, you will see the same colorism issue come out in every Black household. I say that. I believe it. I'm an old girl. I've seen a few things. And until it is time to stop. Until we can say, how do I feel about it? Let me tell you something, guys. When I was growing up, I've always been dark. I've never seen an issue with my skin color. It never bothered me. But I promise you one thing. Had I listened to all the voices around me, I could be one messed up human being about my color. So some of it is choice. We have individual choices to make, but it goes back exactly to what Mark said. Power rules things. Because I always say to people, nobody wants to rob an empty vault. Nobody goes to take something out of a vault that's empty. Guess what? Black people have more power than we have ever known. It's in us, just by the virtue of how we were made. People, and I'm not going to tell you my age, but I'm not 25, okay? You wouldn't look at me and know my age, even with gray hair. I refuse. This barber told me today, I'm going to let you color your hair. I said, you ain't going to let me do nothing. I earned this gray. You're not covering nothing. So the bottom line is our individual work, one at a time. Work on who you are. Because I'm telling you, I go places where people tell me, white people, Black people, I'd like to be like you. You know what they're talking about? They're talking about peace. They're talking about acceptance. How and like Mark alluded to this before, what I think we need to do to a large degree is to start asking ourselves on this panel, ask ourselves questions about ourselves. Mark just showed you one of his daughters. Her voice alone, when I lived in New York and I worked at Sloan Kettering, people thought I was Caucasian because I can do it. Because we had to work with people from all over the world. And I promise you would never know I was West Indian because I'm good. I told this Italian lady on the phone one day, when you come to New York for your surgery, ask for me because I'm Sicilian. Now, I learned years ago, with the Italians, and that's where the Sicilians come from. So I have enough history to know what the Sicilian means. And I could, when I was on the phone, she was in Italy talking to me, and I used their Italian names as Assunta and Annunziata. I can even put inflection on it. I can do all that stuff. So I said, when you come, you'll see that I'm Sicilian. When that lady came for a visit, I heard her in the hallway. May I see Judita? And I'm like, oh Lord. She comes around the corner and she goes, aha! I'm not Sicilian. But the truth is, what that happened, it opened up a door for communication. And she now she looked at me, I'm sure she looked at color a slightly different way. Because, first of all, I knew her language. I could pronounce the names from her culture, but I didn't look anything like her. So I'm saying that to say this. Karen, I truly believe what I'm saying because I've seen it. I work with people, and I've seen change come mental health wise. I've worked with prisoners, and I've told them when I come in the mornings and I'm walking towards my office, a whole bunch of inmates sit outside, and all of a sudden as I walk up, good morning, Miss Barnes. The whole group, it sounded so heavy, and people said, "How come they like you so much?" You know what I do? I give them respect despite their situation. And I'm telling us as a people, if until we start looking at ourselves as individuals, you will never hear me tell anybody, I have light-skinned people in my family. I'm sorry, you won't hear those words out of my mouth.
But this is what I want to show you all right now. I have 7, and there are 2 of them that are this complexion. The other 5 are this complexion.
Right.
And Sam, you know what the question I get on these? You sure you ain't get horn, boy? Or like Jamaicans would say, yo, you swear you never get born?
There you go.
But you know, that would be something very recent, because growing up in the Caribbean, you had the 2 same parents. They would have 8 to 12 children, and you had dark, light, middle, in between.
Yeah.
Nobody had nothing fresh to say.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that people are saying it to us now, but we are the ones that
so this is what I wanted to show, 2 variations of my offspring. And in terms of loving them better, you know I love you more, right? You know you're my favorite child, right? Okay, now go.
You know something, guys? Remember what you just said. It's a generational problem. It's gone from generation to generation.
Yes.
And I understand. Karen to me looks a little like, yeah, but we got to figure this out. And the truth is, the answer lies within us. Lies within all of us. Until we can look at ourselves and ask, how many times have we done this? How many times have we talked about something? A Jamaican in Florida told me the other day, she was coming out of a bank, and a black guy was coming in. She dropped her phone and smashed it. She thought the black guy was going to hold her up. That's real. That's real. And black people need to start saying it outright, because I'm telling you, the reason why this stuff continues is because we don't want to say it happened to me.
On that note, Dr. Barnes, I have to say.
You're going to fire me now, right?
I have to say.
I know because I'm dark, why you want to fire me. You know?
I have to say, you see a minute ago when I flashed my locks, I just want you to know that I'm one of those who don't really care. I don't care what people think. I don't care what society have to say. And this is an outward expression of my inner grace, where I just, this long time, I stopped caring what society think about me. And I decide I am going to be a reflection of that. So all the beard, long before it started getting popular, when black men started wearing beards, I had mine. Right. And this, it's not just an overnight fad. It's not an overnight sensation where it will be gone by tomorrow. So for some closing arguments, I'd like to ask you all, is there room for a part 2 of this conversation?
I think so.
I'd like to see Karen smile. I'd like to see Karen say, okay, there it is. There's the answer.
Cat got your tongue?
No, cat no have my tongue.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask you, could this mindset be corrected? Mark.
Yeah. With time, as things change, I've had the pleasure and displeasure of having been in this country actually since 1960. I have seen the back of the bus, separate bathrooms, a whole bunch of things, not just in the South, but in New York. By default, by proxy. Things do change. I've seen attitudes change amongst people of color in this country. I wish my father had been alive. I never thought that I would see a black man as president of the United States. because I was in grade 3. It couldn't vote yet. So things do change. So yes, there is the possibility with our own healing and with time, things do change.
Mr. Archer.
It can be eradicated. To echo what Mark just said, you know, things can change. Things are changing. I think the fact that once we start talking about something and bringing attention to it, I think that would be important. And you know, talking about something and bringing attention to it reminds me of a lot of things that we do, especially when we're being marginalized and we say nothing, and someone does something and we have a discrimination and prejudice either within ourselves or from different ethnicities, and you know, our natural reaction is to brush it off and keep it moving, but we have to, yes, brush it off, but address it. And I think once we start to address it and someone mash your foot, you forgive them, but you mash my foot. So at least they can start paying attention to that. Because I think what we did over, or what our parents did, or ancestors did, is that they brush it off and forgave, and brush it off and forgave. So the other folks who's stepping on our toes all along are thinking that, oh, well, it's okay. I can continue to step on his toe. I can continue to step on the black people foot because they are easy to forgive. They're easy to this, and they're real nice, and the this and the da 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 da. Yes, forgive, but let's address the issue. And I think that would be sowing seeds of eradicating this issue.
Dr. Barnes.
Until we admit that something is wrong and something needs to be fixed, nothing much changes. Until I, as an individual, say, I don't like the way I'm treated because of the color of my skin, and speak up, and not wait for Al Sharpton, who doesn't, his favorite color is green. Until we, as individuals, start taking responsibility. Start taking responsibility and say, change begins with me. The church loves to say, we need a revival. Well, a revival will not come unless Judith says, I need to be revived as an individual. Society is not a building. It's a bunch of folks. So until we as individuals on this panel and people watching and listening say, there's something in my history as a Black person that doesn't sit well with me in 2020. When you have Black people standing out now, saying that a person who propagates, who sells, who garners and pushes forth evil and racism, not because he's necessarily racist, but because he knows a lot of people are, and that's a selling point. He knows that. Until we start saying, no, I can't go on national TV and say this is all right, that this person is all right. Until we stop allowing ourselves to be bought for $50 to talk crap. Until we as individuals, for me to be who I am today, I had to say something was going on negative with me before. And so where I am today is not because I kept going on doing the same thing over and over again and say I'm right. I had to say something is off in me. My source is God. So I said, would you help me change it? And I can tell you, I am changing, and I'm going from glory to glory. Because for me, Christianity is a powerful entity. It's not religion as much as it's a relationship. And in that, I'm saying this also, until we take these churches, and that's another issue for Black folks, until we take these churches and take these Black pastors in there who are not teaching people how to be empowered, who are not teaching Black people that you're not just going to go in there and I'll pray for you for a husband, I'll pray for you for a house and a car. Bull, that's crap. Until we start questioning, let me tell you how I end this, for me, until we start questioning our Black pastors, our Black politicians, Until we start questioning ourselves and them, we ain't going nowhere. Can it change? Yes, it can be changed. But I think change only comes about, like I said, a million times I've said, and I'll continue. Until I find something is intolerable, I'm not going to change. And Mark said it, you said it, everybody said it in different ways. We have been taught how to do this, but we have to make a decision that it has not worked for us. And it's time to be okay with this.
Karen?
Clear, concise communication, focused communication, an actual action plan on what is happening in our communities from the continent to the Caribbean to the US, an actual action plan, a way of getting the information out in a clear, concise manner and in a focused manner. I think that's the way to go.
Judith said something very important, and it took me back to a few words from Emperor Selassie, made popular by Bob Marley. Until the philosophy which holds one race superior and another inferior is finally and permanently discredited, everywhere is war.
It's happening. It's
Ladies
happening
and gentlemen,
now.
thank you all for joining this platform this evening. Once again, thank you for joining Caribbean Chat. See you all next time. Peace.